All right, we are ready to go. Um, my name is Rhonda M. Jordan. If this is your first time with me, I want to welcome you to today's live stream. I do this live stream on Wednesdays at 12 p.m. Eastern, and this is a topic that a lot of people ask me about on a regular basis, and I've done it in the past, but it's been more than 6 months ago, and so I want to share it with you today. But before we get into that, I want to start off by telling you that I appreciate you being here, whether you are watching live or if you are watching the replay. Feel free to drop a comment in and let me know where it is that you're watching from. Additionally, if you have any questions as we go through things, by all means, make sure to drop those in as well. Give me 1 second. I forgot to turn one light on. Okay, well, that light isn't going to play nice with us, so we'll just leave it as it is. I apologize for that. But as I mentioned, that this is a topic I get a lot of questions on, and anytime I send out an email message regarding this topic, it's one of the things that always increases my open rate. So, what that lets me know is that people are very interested in content creation. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this topic at this particular time of the year is that for some of you, you have plans with family, you're going to be traveling, you just need a break. You want to have your content continue to work in the background for you, but you really don't know what you should have out there. And one of the things that I want to really focus on today is today's training is all about teaching you how to plan. I'm saying 21 days of content in 1 hour. You really can do 30 days. Sometimes you can do even more once you understand the philosophy behind it and the strategy. And then all you have to do is just implement. Once you have it planned, then you move into the phase of actually creating it. But today, we're simply focused on planning that. So, as I mentioned, if you have any questions as we're going through this, by all means, make sure to drop those comments in so I can certainly answer those for you. All right, so I don't want to hold this back from you any longer. What I want to explain to you is how and why having a content strategy is important and how you can immediately get off of this live and start implementing what you learned today. So, the reason why having a content strategy is important is because your content is what's ultimately going to attract your initial audience and your audience going forward. Additionally, what it's going to do for you is allow people to get to know you as an individual, get to know your skill set, your strategies. And remember, a lot of people out there are looking for someone that can be their guide, someone that can walk them through whatever it is you do. And I want you to understand it does not matter what your niche happens to be, your area of focus, you still want to have a content strategy that will work for you. And I think once you learn it, you'll realize this is a lot easier than you might think it is. And for a lot of people, when I'm talking to them about it, they are really overthinking the content strategy. Another thing to understand is that the great thing about your content is it's almost like having an additional team member that you don't have to worry about paying. What do I mean by that? Is once you create the content and then schedule it, that content is going to continue to work for you. It's going to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year, or 366 if it happens to be a leap year. And that's why a content strategy is important. I can't tell you how many times I go to bed at night, wake up in the morning, and I have questions that people are asking me on the YouTube videos that I've created. Some of these are like 2 years old. but they're still working. There's still things that people are learning from, things that people are watching, and so forth. So I want you to understand it's important. The other thing that having a strategy is going to do for you is it's going to make sure that you are pulling in the type of individuals you want in your audience. If you're just all over the place with your content, you're going to start attracting people, but likely you're going to attract the wrong people. And that's not what we want either. And then the other thing is having a content strategy, it eliminates that whole what am I going to post today? I can't tell you how many times before I started implementing a content strategy, it would be like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm looking up and I'm thinking, I haven't posted anything today. Well, if you have a strategy in place, you don't have to worry about that because the whole point of having a strategy is to sit down, to plan it, create it, and then schedule it so you don't have to worry about it. And so that you don't end up skipping days and weeks at a time because you have to remember most of you are going to be building your audience, at least initially, on social media, which means posting is in fact important. And you have to also understand that the algorithms on various platforms are going to, they reward people that post on a regular basis. So, you're going to have to play with the times and so forth of, when it's best for you to post in that. But I say this, even if you don't know the best time to post, it's important to post something. And remember, this is just part of the strategy, the overall strategy of building and growing your audience. Now, the reason why I'm teaching this strategy at this time of the year, as I mentioned, is because if you want to take time off, you still want your content to be working for you in the background. And if you have created it and you've scheduled it, it will just go out like clockwork and people are going to see a new post from you each and every day if that's how you have your content scheduled. And so you can actually be away from your business for a couple of weeks, but the content is still going out there. And remember, at this time of the year, you still have people scrolling their phones, they're on their desktops or laptops or whatever it is, and all they have to do is come across some of your content. And what that's going to allow them to do is to make a decision as to whether or not they want to watch more of your content. And maybe that in turn, watching more of your content is the thing that makes them make a decision to start, following you or subscribing to your channel, depending on what platform you happen to be on. All right. So, what I want to do today is to teach you how to create that content. Now, I said 21 days. I'm really looking more at, for me, it would only be about 14 days of content that I need to schedule based upon the time that I plan to take off. So for me, my goal is to make December 19th, for example, the last day that I'm physically working, if you will, all right, and take the rest of the year off. Now, why do I do that? Because I used to work for a company that implemented that policy, and we called it shutdown, and everyone looked forward to it. The reason why this works so well is because if you go ahead and plan your content and get it working for you, you don't have to worry about whether something is going out. You know something is going out. You know that your audience is going to continue to find that content. You know that people are going to continue to, decide to follow you and so forth. All right. So I've talked enough about that. I've shared enough information on that. Now let's go ahead and get right into it. So the first thing that you need to do is to make sure you are very familiar and have decided upon your content pillars. Your content pillars should drive all activity. So, in other words, you know your niche, you know who your ideal customer is. And if you don't, you've got to spend some time figuring that out so that you know who it is you want to attract. The next thing is with these content pillars, the way that you want to do that is, and what content pillars happen to be, are just areas of focus, things you're going to be talking about on a regular basis. So let me use myself as an example. I know that my audience tends to be individuals who are 45 years of age or older, most of whom are women, and their goal is to be able to build a business using digital products, online courses, and affiliate marketing. So, those are my content pillars. I teach people how to create content, I teach them how to create digital products, online courses, and then also how to generate income via affiliate marketing, which means all of the content I create needs to fall into one of those four pillars. Now, for you, what I would suggest is within your niche, you come up with 3 to 5 content pillars. Now, one of the content pillars I always say should be yourself because you need to share things about yourself in order to get people, give them an opportunity to build the know, like, and trust factor. So, for example, as you are creating content, for example, during this time frame, you want to also have maybe a picture of yourself enjoying, a hot cup of cocoa if you happen to be, in an area where it's cold. You want to have, there's all sorts of things that you can do, but share yourself, some of the aspects of your life with your audience so that they get to know you in addition to the other areas that you have selected as your content pillars. Now, once you know what your content pillars are, hopefully you've already decided on the platform you're going to be working on. And let me tell you my strategy, and certainly what I recommend for you, which is you pick one platform, and that is the platform that you build on. Why? Because it's just too difficult to try building on multiple platforms when it is just you. Now, if you have a virtual assistant or you've already gotten to the point where you have a team, well, then you can consider adding on additional platforms. But my suggestion is you start with one, you get that going, and then if you add on a virtual assistant or if you feel like you can add something to your plate, you add on, another platform and continue to build on that. For most of you, single platform is all that you need. And the reason why I want you to really focus in on a single platform is now you can get to know the lay of the land on that platform. You can figure out what works well. You can look at other creators who are on that platform and you can see what's working for them. And I always say success leaves clues. So if in fact you see that other creators are doing a specific type of content or whatever, and that aligns with you, I'm not telling you to duplicate someone because you still need to be yourself. But if that aligns with you, then try testing out some of the strategies that they're using to see if that works. See, if you're trying to be on multiple platforms, it's difficult to get to know the lay of the land because now you've got to try to learn multiple platforms, and I'm telling you that's just too difficult. All right, so I'm going to give you some examples of things. Let's take, for example, YouTube, and that's the platform I choose to build on. With YouTube, one of the things that you can do is obviously upload regular videos. You can do live streaming, and now YouTube allows you to do both horizontal live streaming as well as vertical live streaming. You can do that from your phone. The other thing that they have in place is it used to be called the community tab. Now it's called the post tab. The thing about I'm going to speak now about the post tab because this is going to be more like what you might see on, for example, Instagram or Facebook or, Threads or something or LinkedIn. The thing about the post tab is when you, in fact, post something, it's public, which means it can show up on the main page of YouTube. Why is that important? Because that's going to allow you to be discovered by creators I'm sorry, discovered by people that don't currently follow you. And so it might be something that you post on that particular, on your post tab, if you will, that allows people to find you. Another thing is on YouTube, they also have shorts. something. Now, personally, I don't do a lot of shorts. And the reason for it is that's a different audience than people who watch long form videos. But that is an option for you if you choose to do that. And then the other thing is going to be, as I mentioned, either just regular videos or live streaming. So you have a lot of different ways to be found. Now, let's shift over to something like Facebook or Instagram. On Facebook or Instagram, one of the things that's going to get the most attention on you are going to be short form videos or reels, as they call them. So, reels are typically going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of, let's say, 20 to 40 seconds. Now, other types of reels can be as short as, 6, 7, 8 seconds long. And the thing about those is those are going to get the most attention. The platform is really pushing short form videos, meaning Facebook and Instagram. So the more reels you can create, the easier you're going to have in terms of that video getting discovered by people that don't currently follow you or who aren't in your audience. Why is this important? Because when you start to create a planning strategy, as I mentioned, you have to know what works for the platform. So instead of creating, for example, just a bunch of text posts, let's say for Facebook or Instagram, if that those are your platforms of choice, think really hard about using something like Reels. Now, you can even do faceless Reels. So, there are a lot of different ways. If you choose not to show your face, there are a lot of different ways you can go about this. But just understand that those are the types of things that are going to get the most attention, the most reach, if you will, because the algorithms on those platforms favor that type of content. So think long and hard about what you can do. All right, so we've talked now about the fact that you need to know your niche, who your ideal customer is. You have to have your content pillars, and you have to know the platform. All right, now each of the platforms that I've talked about so far, Reels on Facebook and Instagram, both of those will allow you to schedule your post. Okay. The other thing is if you're using YouTube, same thing is true. You can schedule a live video, for example. You can schedule a post that's going to show up on your post page. So just know that that is also a tool that you'll want to implement after you create the content. Use the scheduling tools, because what that's going to allow you to do is to, set it and forget it, so to speak. So just kind of keep that in mind as you think through things. Um, how can you get this content created? Now, one thing that I want you to think about when you are creating content or planning this content is, what is your strategy going to be? I always teach things like the 5 E's. So, for example, you want to have engaging content. That's content that's going to get people to take an action, if you will. So, for example, if you do a poll, you might have 4 options. They select one. That's getting people to engage. You might want to do empowering type content. That's the one that's like, you've got this. You can absolutely do that. You might want to do some entertaining content. So, for me, sometimes I've done things like cooking fails, things that just did not work out well. So you can do something like that to get people engaged. And then also, you can also do content. My favorite type of content is educational. Now, educational content is where you're teaching people something, and you want to focus on something you can teach relatively quickly. So, for example, if you'll notice at the top of this video, I mentioned this is not about teaching you how to create the content. Today, we are simply focused on planning the content. Of course, I can teach you how to create it. I've created tons of content, but I want you to know when you go through this process, this planning part should be separate from the actual creating. And the reason for it is when you're planning the content, you just want your brain focused on the type of content you're going to create. Now, I mentioned to you the different types of content you can think about. So, in your planning process, I would suggest you have a variety of pieces of content. So some that's going to entertain, some that's going to empower, some that's going to educate. Um, I've forgotten my 5 E's. I have to pull them up to see. But you see what I'm saying? So not everything needs to be, educational. As a matter of fact, honestly, that can get kind of boring, particularly at this time of the year when people are kind of, in a different mode. Now, I'm not saying everybody's in that mode, but, people are a little bit more laid back and, a lot of people have the plan to really go at it starting January 1st, and that's fine. But do understand that there are some people right now who have this time off. So they're looking to get educated. So do not skimp on your educational content. Let me go back to the educational content that you can plan for. So, as I said, that can be a simple tip. So if there is something you have learned that has helped you, what can you do or how can you teach that? Now, that's something that would work very well in a reel, okay? Because you can actually, believe it or not, you can teach a lot in 30 to 40 seconds. Another thing might be a strategy, or maybe you are introducing for example, a software that has really helped you, something that you use that has really helped you in the process of building your business. So that could be something that you actually teach. It could be, for example, you could also teach people, if you have the ability to share your screen, or even if you're just holding your phone and showing your screen and you want to walk them through something, that would be a short tutorial, if you will. People love tutorials. I can tell you personally that if you were to look at my channel, the highest number of views on my channel have been from my tutorial videos where I'm showing people step by step by step how to do something. So think about how you can do that. And I also want to go back and to say to you, you don't have to focus solely on reels. You can do long form content, meaning if you want to record a video and upload it, that works as well because there are going to be people watching video. So I don't want you to at all feel like I'm telling you not to do long form videos. You absolutely want to do those. Get them recorded, get them edited, and then make sure that you get them scheduled. Okay. All right. So if there are any questions, by all means, drop those in to make sure that you definitely get those questions answered while we're on here. All right. Now, the next thing that I want you to do when you're thinking about planning, let's get into the actual strategy. I want you to think about how much time you plan to take off. Now, you might be saying, Rhonda, I don't plan to take any time off. I'm going to be working through this whole thing. Great. You still need to learn the planning strategy because at some point you may decide that you want to take time off. Maybe you want to take 2 weeks off in July or whenever it is. Save this video, come back to it, rewatch it, and implement what you're going to be learning. All right. So now, with this planning, the first thing I want you to do, as I mentioned, is now that you know your content pillars, within those content pillars, let's say you're taking, 2 weeks off. That's only 14 days of content. So if you want to post once a day, that's great. If you want to post multiple times a day, just create more content. Now, the first thing I want you to do with this planning strategy is to figure out over the course of the days you plan to take off, what is it that you want to share? What do you think is going to give people the best introduction to you or allow them to go deeper? So, is that going to be tips? Is that going to be strategies? Is that going to be tutorials? Whatever it is. So let's say you decide over the course of those days, you want to have, 5 reels. Well, then break that down and spread them across the content pillars that you happen to be. And then within the content pillars, what is it that you want to teach? Now, I always say if you're doing a reel, keep it to one tip. Don't try to go over that because what's going to happen is you're going to end up talking super, super fast and trying to get through the content. And that's annoying to people. Just take it through. Now, if we have time, I might actually do a quick reel for you to show you what it looks like. What I did is honestly, I had ChatGPT write me 30 days of short form content that I could use. Why did I do that? Because I wanted to test out some things and see how it might work. Because if I'm going to give you a strategy, I want to make sure it's going to work and that you can deliver an effective message. And here's what I'm here to tell you: you absolutely can. Now, another thing that I want you to also do is when you are planning this content, I don't want you to skimp on content that works to allow people to get to know you. And here, what I want to share with you is not only can you share the things of, you, for example, drinking a cup of cocoa or something like that, but behind the scenes content works really well. Let me see if I can give you some examples. Yeah, I have some right here. Let me give you some examples of behind the scenes content that you can easily create and allow that to be part of what you're going to share during that time that you're off. So, I mentioned this before. It could be something like your favorite planning tools or a software. So, for me, if I was going to share something along these lines, I would share with you something like ClickUp. I'll put a link below this video. ClickUp is a project management tool. It's one that I use. It helps me, really do a whole lot. I plan all of my videos that way. I absolutely love it. But you might have a different tool. Maybe Notion is your thing. Well, show something like that. Show you creating a Notion spreadsheet, or not spreadsheet, but a Notion's template or something like that. Another thing that you can do is a research session. Now, how are you going to record these? What I would suggest you do is to put your phone on a tripod and turn it towards you. And then if you're on your computer simply typing away, your phone is actually recording you and a portion of your screen, if you will. And all it's doing is showing you, just kind of typing away. And you can say something like, your caption could be something like research for an upcoming course, research for an upcoming digital product, research for whatever. So you can do that. Another thing that you can do is show your filming setup. I did this not too long ago where, people are accustomed to seeing me this way on the screen. But what I did is I took a picture from this angle here coming in so that people could see what my actual filming setup looks like. So they were able to see my camera, they were able to see the microphone. They were also able to see that there is a queen size bed that's less than 3 feet from where I'm sitting because I record and live stream in my guest bedroom. And I said something along the lines of no fancy studio, no, I don't know, something like that. But what it does is it allows people into your world. Another thing that you can do is you can do your morning routine. So put all of these things that I'm giving you for behind the scenes content into, something you could potentially record. Another thing could be your favorite coffee or tea. Remember, it doesn't have to be all business. So these are things that are allowing people to see behind the curtain, so to speak. You can also show them, for example, your content calendar. That might be something you show. Now, I'm actually talking about a lot of things that you can record, assuming that you are a digital creator. But let's say, for example, you are someone who teaches people how to crochet, or you teach people how to knit, or you teach photography. How can you adapt these ideas that I'm giving you to those and put those into your planning document? Another thing might be you unboxing new equipment or something that you received. So that could be something that you could record. And these are so easy to record because they can be done simply by having a, phone that is on a tripod. Because remember, people do not want to watch a shaky video. So put it on a tripod and just let people watch the whole thing. You can also have, let's see, a coffee shop workday. Let's say that you go to your local coffee shop on a regular basis and you actually work there sometime. Do the same thing. put your phone on a tripod and just let it record. Now, if you notice when I'm talking about some of these things, they don't even have to have sound, meaning you don't even have to be the one speaking. You can just simply have this type of content being recorded. I always say have these ideas ready to go because there are going to be times when you definitely want to share this. Now, if you don't want to necessarily do recordings, then just snap a picture. That would be another way that you could do it. Your family pet could be something else you put into place. And if you see me looking down, I'm reading my content ideas list here. Another thing could be if you are recording bloopers, that B-roll, so to speak, where you're kind of behind the scenes and people get to see you making mistakes and so forth. Another thing could be your vision board. At the end of last week's training live stream, I talked about the importance of having a vision board. So maybe you want to give people a snapshot of your vision board, or even if you don't want to show the whole thing, maybe you can kind of describe to them what's on your vision board or why these things are important to you. Another thing could be, let's see, let me give you one more before we move on. Maybe you have a personal goal tracker. That could be something you could do. You might even want to show people your workspace. Where is it that you do all of this, even if it's your kitchen table, because people want to learn. They want to learn all these things. Now, how do you use all of this? You need to be for your planning purposes, you need to be writing down the different type of concepts and then decide if that's going to fall into your plan. And I would say have a variety of things because you want people to have, a lot of different things that they're seeing come through to you or from you during the time that you're away. So, a behind the scenes picture, some tips, for example, that you have recorded, software that you recommend, books. People love recommendations on books. So, you could actually do something like that. If you notice back over my shoulder, I've got a series of books behind me. I'm an avid reader. So, that would be something you could easily share. And honestly, you could even just take a picture of a book laying on your desk or, wherever and say, this is my current read. So that could be another idea. All right. Okay. So now let me go ahead and give you a few other things that you can also put into your planning tools, if you will, or things you can plan for. Another thing would be quotes. So if there are quotes that really resonate with you or you feel would resonate with your audience, then grab some quotes, maybe 2 or 3 quotes that you can sprinkle in to your content that's going to be appearing during that time. Another thing, these are things I absolutely love, which is kind of like bust a myth. Okay. This can be done as a video. It can be done as a post. And with Bust a Myth, you think about a myth that is existent in your niche. And then you say, no, I'm going to bust that. So, for example, I could say something like if I were going to bust a myth, I could say, a lot of new solopreneurs feel like you can only create solid digital products if you use paid tools. Well, that's absolutely incorrect. And it is. Okay. Here are several tools that you can use that you could use to create a very solid digital product, and they won't cost you a cent. So I could do something like that. Think about how you could bust a myth. Okay, so that would be something you could definitely use. And then another thing that you could do is something like when I learned this. So when I learned this, my business changed. Or when I learned this, I was able to create content 10 times faster. When I learned that I needed to have an email list, I started to, I started to grow not just on my social media platforms, but my audience started to grow overall. I mean, you can come up with whatever you want to. Another thing that you could incorporate would be something like a question that I'm often asked. So I mentioned at the top of this that one of the things that people really respond to and open my emails on is when I talk about content creation. And so that could be something you could do. You could say, for example, a question that I'm often asked is how I can create content that's going to draw in my audience, or how I can create a digital product over a weekend, or how I can become an affiliate when I don't really have a large audience. So think about questions that you're asked. So you post the question or say the question, and then you would just give the answer in a very concise fashion that allows people to have an answer that they can work with. Okay, so that would be it. Another thing that you can incorporate as part of this is a simple strategy. This simple strategy allowed me to get, 5 hours back in my week. And then you simply share it with people. See, here's the thing that you may not realize, which is you know more than you're giving yourself credit for. So if you're thinking about, and you're struggling with this whole content creation thing, chances are pretty good you're overthinking it. And a lot of times, the reason why you end up overthinking it is because you assume that what you know, everybody knows. And that is just not the case. It isn't. Remember, a lot of your audience is going to be people that are brand new to whatever it is that you're teaching. So things that may be, that you may know like the back of your hand, things that are just like, I can't believe everybody doesn't know this. Everybody doesn't know. So sometimes it's better for you to go back. Think about what it was like when you were new. Think about what you were searching for. Think about the struggles you had. Think about the things that you were trying to figure out and answer the simple questions. You'd be surprised at how beneficial that's going to be to people, particularly people coming into your audience that are first discovering you. Now, another thing I want you to think about creating is what I would call like content that is SEO, search engine optimized. What do I mean by search engine optimized? That means phrases that people are typing into the search engines, phrases that people are typing into YouTube. So it could be something like, how do I become an affiliate? How do I do affiliate marketing? It could be, what type of yarn should I use to create my first baby blanket? And I want you to think about those things. Why are those even important? Because that's the stuff people want to know. Those, because they're optimized, search engine optimized, one of the things that can tend to happen is that those are the things that can allow you to get discovered. So when we're talking about all of this, I want you to have a strategy that not only serves your existing audience, but I want you to have a content strategy that's going to pull in new people. And the things that I'm sharing with you will absolutely do that. Another thing I want you to incorporate into your planning strategy is going to be evergreen content. Evergreen content is the type of content that's going to be relevant today. It's going to be relevant, tomorrow and 3 years in the future. Now, what might be an example of evergreen content? Well, it might be the type of yarn that you use. Now, chances are that's going to be relevant. The type of knitting needle that you're going to use. If you're in photography, it might be the type of lenses that you can buy for your camera. It might be an example of what to look for in your first camera. So think about things that people are going to be relevant. There's one video that comes to mind when I talk about evergreen content, and it's not mine, but it was something like how to drill a hole. Well, that video has had millions of views, and you would think, well, Doesn't everybody know how to do it? Obviously not, because people keep watching it. It might be how to install a sink. So I'm giving you all of these different examples because I don't necessarily know what industry you're in. I don't know what your niche is, but I want to open your brain up and help you start thinking about things that you can create content on and around that is going to allow you to have more content than you're ever going to need. Okay. All right. Now, here's another one that I want to give you, another starting point, if you will, which is if I were starting from scratch, this is what I would do. And then you give them, whatever it is. If I were starting over, this is what I would do. So, give all of those that I've given you some, consideration and think about your audience because you can very easily make reels out of those. You can very easily make text posts out of those. You can make some long form videos out of the things that we just talked about. Remember, this is strictly the planning part that we're talking about. So, in the planning part, you're considering everything and then eventually you're going to narrow it down. All right. So, any questions as we go through? And also, I'd love to hear what type of content are you currently creating? Because that's helpful for me as well to know. And if you need some examples of things, drop a comment in and let me know. And I'll see if I can come up with something that will definitely help you to get this going. Now, I talked about doing this in 1 hour. So, first and foremost, you have the examples of the content that you can create. And so when you sit down, your goal is to know what types of content you're going to be working with. So you're going to do some reels, you're going to do some text posts, you're going to do some, I didn't even talk to you about carousels. So let me quickly share with you what a carousel post is. A carousel post is nothing more than a series of posts that are somehow connected to one another. Okay, those work really well. So make sure that if you decide you want to do that, think about how you can do that. So it might be, do you want to know how to do X? Great, let me show you. And then the next screen is going to be the first thing. The second screen is going to be the second, or in that case, it would be the third screen, would be, point number two. The fourth one would be point number three, and so forth. So that is definitely something else that you can do as well. So, as I mentioned, when you are sitting down and you're planning this out, what do you want to work from? You might say, I absolutely do not want to do any reels. Okay, great. You don't have to. Use some of the other things that we talked about. And then I would also say during your planning session, you want to also make sure that you're hitting each of your content pillars. So I wouldn't focus solely in on one content pillar. What I would do is make sure that I'm pulling things from each of my pillars. Why is that important? Because you never know what's going to bring someone into your audience. So, for example, I have done tutorial videos and I've shared with people how to create ebooks. That brings a lot of people into my audience. I've shown people how to create landing pages. That's brought a lot of people into my audience. So if I would have just strictly stuck with one of my content pillars, I would have missed out on bringing people in. And that's what you definitely want to, that's definitely what you want to incorporate is a variety of things. The other thing is not that people typically do this, but if someone were to go through your page, let's say you're building on Facebook or you're building on Instagram, and they were to scroll through your feed, if they keep seeing the exact same type of content all the way through, that gets really boring. So mix it up. Throw in some reels, throw in some quotes, throw in some pictures behind the scenes, throw in, some of the other things. So all of this needs to be considered during your planning phase. All right. So, okay, so the Determined Gardener says, I create gardening videos. Listen, I would watch your stuff all day long because, I'm not a big gardener, but I love flowers and I have watched a ton of YouTube videos on how to do certain things. So definitely, this is your time to shine because if you're in the US, I don't know if you are or not, but if you're in the US, we got to start thinking about what next year is going to look like. So you can really jump in and start sharing some things as well. So definitely incorporate that. Oh, and another thing, I want to go into the affiliate marketing aspect of things because some of you are, in fact, you belong to affiliate programs. So, what are some things that you can demonstrate? What are some things you can show people that in turn allow you to lead them to an affiliate link? So, this is another time for you to be able to actually earn some additional commission in terms of your affiliate links. So, let's go back to the determined gardener. This might be a time for you to talk about I don't know, gardening tools that you use. It might, what type of, are you doing like vegetable gardening or is it like flowers? Let me know that because, as I said, think about these things because this is an opportunity for you to put some things out there that will allow you to earn some commissions on, whether it's with Amazon or other programs that you might be affiliated with. Okay. All right. So the next thing, once you have all of those things laid out, then the next thing that you're going to be doing is looking at your time off calendar, if you will, and you're going to be plugging into it the types of content you want to put into that. So let's say you're going to be away for 14 days. Well, maybe day one, you're going to have a reel. Maybe day two is going to be something like, let's see, this simple strategy. So you could definitely put that in. This simple strategy allowed me to do whatever. The third day might be a behind the scenes picture. The fourth day might be you holding that cup of hot cocoa. The fifth day might be you unboxing something. The sixth day, you see, this stuff is not that hard to do. So if you're struggling with it, it's simply because either A, you didn't know what you could post, you thought it only had to be business, or you're just overthinking it. And that's what I find. And trust me, I still overthink this stuff. So sometimes I just have to stop myself and say, listen, you know what to do. Just go back and think about what you've done in the past, what has worked. Okay. All right. So now, going on further, you might have a tip. And also, depending on the platform that you're on, you might need to be posting more than once a day. Okay, so that is definitely something that you want to consider as well. All right, so let's see here. Oh, you are very welcome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. And I definitely like to make sure that I'm sharing this because, this, especially the content creation piece, this was something that I struggled with when I was first getting started. I didn't know what to post. And more importantly, I didn't know how important the content strategy was going to be in building an audience. So, one of the reasons why I really focus in on content strategy is if you are brand new or if you've been at it for a while and your audience has not grown, it's probably because your content strategy is not strong enough or your content strategy is inconsistent, or your content strategy is non existent. So, one way or the other, content creation is a necessary part of growth in our industry. So, just knowing what to post is going to help you a long way. All right. So, we talked about getting to the point where based on those days, what it is that you want to post. Then the next thing is going to be looking at it strategically to see if you're not posting. First of all, that you're not missing any of your content pillars, and secondly, that you don't have the same type of content being posted every single day. Okay, so as I said, mix it up a little bit. Another thing that you can incorporate into the planning process is using a calendar. Like I said, you just, lay out a calendar and look at it. And if you do need to post more than once a day, depending on the platform that you're and I'm speaking mostly to those of you that are posting on either Facebook or Instagram. The thing that I can tell you with that is those platforms love for you to post multiple times per day. See, on YouTube, I don't really have to do that. I can post something once a day and it's just going to live out there. And what I mean by once a day is I'm talking more about the post portion of YouTube. I don't have to do a video every single day on YouTube in order for my content to be found. Why? Because YouTube is one of the biggest search engines out there. So a lot of people are searching for things. The other thing is, unlike Facebook or Instagram, with YouTube, content can be found, days and weeks and years after it was actually created. With Facebook and Instagram, oftentimes once something is posted, unless it happens to go viral or unless a bunch of people are sharing it or engaging on it, meaning they're liking it, commenting, and so forth. The other thing is you're probably going to need to post multiple times in order to stay relevant. Let me give you an example. As I mentioned, my focal point for platform is YouTube. But recently, within the last 7 to 8 days, I wanted to run a test because marketing is all about testing. I started posting on my Facebook business page, which I have had for years, but I rarely post anything on that. And what I started to see was that once something was posted, if I looked back from, let's say I posted something a week ago and I look back, for the most part, the reach on that has stopped. So I'm like, this is just me. I'm not telling you what to do. Okay. I'm thinking I'm gonna have to keep feeding this thing. I've got to keep posting, 2 or 3 times a day. And then Facebook is sending me things like, share this to your stories or share this to whatever. Okay, well, I don't have to do all that on YouTube. And I'm sorry, but at this point in my life, I'm looking for the easiest strategy that's going to give me the most reach, if you will. Now, again, I'm not telling you not to post on these platforms because if that's your thing and it's something you love, then by all means do that. Okay. I'm just telling you that's just really not my thing. Okay. So you mentioned veggies and flowers. Okay. Perfect. So think about, for example, you might be sharing content around where do you get the best flowers, what's the best time to start, what types of flowers do you grow, what's the best time to start putting them out, how do you prune your flowers, how do you transplant them, how do you propagate them, there's just so much you could do with that. And people are going to love it because sometimes when it's kind of gloomy and dull outside, something like flowers in that, it can make people happy. It can be something that gives them something to look forward to. So there are lots of things that you can do with it. So again, if you want to drop in what it is that you do, I'd be happy to attempt to come up with some suggestions on things that you can do to start creating this content that's going to be done. All right. So with your content, as I mentioned, once you've planned it out, now what I also want you to think about is this. What is it that's going to allow you to move people off of social media and onto your email list? Now, I know you're thinking, well, wait a minute, we weren't supposed to be talking about that. Yeah, we are, because this is still a time for you to move people from social media to your email list, because remember, you do not own the social media platforms. And if they were to shut your account down, you'd automatically lose connection to all the people that have chosen to follow you or who have subscribed to you. So you need to create some type of lead magnet. And it doesn't have to be anything extensive. And if you're saying, well, I don't have time to do that right now, don't worry about it. You don't have to do this. But at some point in the future, you really should create a small guide, something that's going to allow people to move onto your email list so that you can build a further connection with them. So for me, for example, and you're more than welcome to do so, below this video, I have a few business tools feel free to grab one. What that's going to do, I'm going to just give it to you straight, is it's going to allow you to end up on my email list. And what I do with my audience is I connect with them once a week, every Tuesday morning. I always say at 6:05 a.m. Eastern Time. I send out an email message. So, another thing is this: if you have started to grow an email list, your content strategy also should include the email messages that are going to be going out to people while you're on vacation, because you don't want to suddenly ghost your email subscribers. So, think about what you can incorporate into your email messages that are going to go out. So for me, I can tell you during the 2 weeks that I plan to take off, I already know what content is going to go out in the email messages that my audience, my subscribers, are actually going to get. And as I mentioned, you don't want to ghost them because, they've taken a step that a lot of people won't, which is they've given you their email address in exchange for whatever it is that you were offering them. So, let's make sure that we don't just kind of leave them by the wayside. So just think about that as well. You also have to incorporate your email messages into your strategy, if you will, your content strategy. All right, now, one other thing that I want to give you is this, because I don't want to forget to tell you this. Once you have this content planned out, and obviously the next step is going to be creating it, you've got to decide how you're going to create it. If it's going to be reels, then just use your phone. If it's going to be text posts and so forth, where you can type those out into the platform that you're using and then just schedule them. If it's going to be something that is like a picture with verbiage on it, then you can do that in Canva or something like that. And you can even use the free version of Canva to do that. But the thing that I really wanted to share with you is, once you have this content created and scheduled, even though you're off, you still need to have some type of strategy or plan for how you are going to connect with people that may comment or ask you questions while you're off. Now, here's my thinking. What I would suggest you do is, because that's important, you definitely want to connect with those individuals that are commenting. What I would suggest is maybe you allocate 10 minutes per day to responding to comments or answering questions. All right. 10 minutes, set a timer, whatever it is, answer the questions, get off and get back to your family or whatever you were doing during this time that you're off. If you can't do it every day, then do it every other day. But the reason why I suggest you do that is, remember, the people who are watching your content or, reading your content, however you have it listed, they don't know you're on vacation. They just know that a post popped up. So they are assuming you're posting it live. They don't necessarily know that you're using a scheduling tool. So if they comment on something and you don't respond to them at all, or you don't respond to them until next year when you're actually physically back and working your business, it just I don't know, it just doesn't allow you to really build the relationship. And most of us can find 10 minutes to pop in, answer questions, and keep it moving. Okay. So just remember that's important. And a lot of people don't realize how important it is to respond to comments, to answer questions. I can't tell you how many people ask me questions. A lot of times, I'll get questions on a video I recorded 2 years ago, and I have to go back and watch the video to see what it is that they were referring to. So that I can effectively answer the question, or at least that portion of the video that they're referring to. So, that's just a way for you to connect. It's also another way, and I've done this a lot, is people will say, well, I really enjoyed, the first video you did on ebook creation. And what I'll do is I'll say something like, well, if you enjoyed that, you might be interested in watching the entire playlist. Here's the link. Now, I have all those links already saved in the Notes app on my phone. So it's not like I have to go back each time, find it, and then post it. And so that's another thing that I would share with you. If you have playlists or specific videos, put them in a place that's easy for you to access, so it can be a simple copy and paste. Okay? All right. So those are things that I would definitely encourage you to do is to plan that time frame. And as I said, if you can't do it every day, then do it every other day. That will definitely go a long way with your audience. And you'd be surprised at how many people, when you reply to them, are really kind of shocked because they didn't expect that you were going to reply to them when they asked you a question or they commented and said, I really learned a lot from this, or this post actually resonates with me. So, get up 10 minutes earlier, stay up 10 minutes later, however it is that you need to do it, and just take the time to actually reply and respond to those comments. All right. Yep, you have earned the award. So I'm talking to somebody I just banned from my YouTube channel. So I love doing that as well. I don't even give them the time of day. And that's another thing I'm going to share with you because people will say some really ridiculous things to you. Don't give them the time of day. Your energy needs to be focused on the people that want to be part of your audience. And from there, you're going to focus solely on them and moving forward. All right. So, any questions on any of the comments or questions on any of the content strategies, planning strategies, the type of content, any questions you have on that, drop that in, and I'm happy to answer that. All right. So just to go through all of the stuff that we have, think about the time frame that you're going to be off and use that time or plan for that time so that you have an adequate amount of content going out. Now, here's one more thing that I want to tell you, and it's this: repurpose and reuse. Okay. Repurpose content that you've already created. So if you have content that you created 3 months ago or 6 months ago or even a month and a half ago and it did well, reuse it during this time frame. Another thing would be to repurpose it. If you created it as a let's say a text post, maybe you can create it as a reel now. So that might be something else that you can do. So don't overlook those two aspects of repurposing and reusing because that's going to give you additional content that you have ready and easily available to you. All right. Okay. So let's see now. I'm just looking at my notes to make sure that, and especially go back and look at some of your most popular pieces if you have some really popular pieces and reuse that during this time frame as well. All right. So if you have any other questions, like I said, drop those in. Otherwise, what I want to do is move over to something that I always like to end with, which is mindset. And I always like to do a little bit of mindset training because it's important when we are building businesses. You've got to keep your mindset strong. You have to be prepared to move forward. And in this particular topic that I want to discuss with you today, it's really all about giving yourself grace. And here's what I mean by that. This year, maybe you had planned to accomplish a whole lot of stuff and in your business, and it just hasn't happened. Or maybe there was something you wanted to do in your business or a place that you wanted to be in terms of number of subscribers or income amount or whatever, and you have not hit that. I need you to give yourself some grace. And the reason why I'm telling you that is sometimes it can be very easy to start to beat yourself up, to say, I should definitely be further along than I am. I should have done this or I should have done that. But you didn't. So the only thing you can do is focus on what's going to happen going forward. And so that's why you have to give yourself some grace. Maybe something happened where you were caring for a sick loved one. Maybe you yourself were sick. Maybe you were moving to another state. Maybe you were, doing something that for yourself, became more of a priority than your business, and that is okay. There's never a reason why you shouldn't worry about taking care of yourself, because you will hear me say this all day long. I don't build like the bro marketers. What do I mean by the bro marketers? The guy standing in front of the Lamborghini who are telling you you don't need to sleep. You need to miss birthdays. You need to miss family events. You need to miss. No, I'm not doing that. And I don't encourage any of my audience to do that. What I encourage you to do is rest when you need to. What I encourage you to do is to build breaks into your business, because it's going to allow you to come back rejuvenated and ready to go. What I encourage you to do is be present for the most important parts and aspects of your life. What I encourage you to do is take care of you, because the whole point of building a business like this is that we are building a business that revolves around our lives, not the other way around. We're putting our business second, so to speak, and putting ourselves and our families and the things that are most important to us, we're putting that first. So that's the way that I like to operate, which is why when I talk about building this, I'm telling people I'm taking the last 2 weeks of the year off. It's going to happen. And, maybe for you, that's not where you are, that you want to take that time off, but there's going to come a point where you do take time off. And so you have to have a plan in place. And as I said, if you don't achieve all of the goals that you have, well, that's okay. Give yourself some grace. You can always make up for it by doing more or doing something different or changing things. So just feel comfortable saying it's okay that I'm not where I want to be, but I haven't given up, and I'm not going to give up, and I'm going to I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to keep putting one foot in front of the other and making it happen. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with is not comparing yourself to other people, because oftentimes that's when those doubts creep in. You start looking at somebody that maybe started at the same time you did, or maybe they're in the same niche that you're in and they have more followers or subscribers or whatever it is, and you start to compare yourself. Okay, they're not you. You're running your own race, and your time will come. So, as I said, give yourself some grace. All right. So, I want to go ahead and get ready to wrap this up by telling you again, if you're interested in one of the business tools, there's some great tools below. They're all free. They will allow you to build your business. You will end up on my email list if you choose to. The other thing is this. I am going to link above all of my previous live streams. They're going to cover a variety of topics along the content pillars that I have. And, I really feel like you can learn a lot from them. So, with that being the case, I'm going to get ready to sign off, tell you I appreciate you being here with me live. I appreciate you watching the replay if you're doing that. And remember, I'm back here on Wednesdays, at noon Eastern time, except for the 2 weeks I'm going to be taking off toward the end of the year. But I appreciate you being here, and I hope that you have an awesome day and an even better week. So thanks for being here, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye.